It's so crazy to think that the only time they did a two-part episode with Drake and Josh was the series finale Really Big Shrimp. I feel like Drake and Josh was the testing ground for how much they could get away with, which is why it's interesting that they did Drake and Josh Goes Hollywood, which was that three-part episode at the end of season 3, and Merry Christmas Drake and Josh. Both came under completely different contexts, but they were definitely both really good. I don't think either were like a misfire, but we should dive in and figure out which one is really better anyway. It was such an experimental time for Nickelodeon. It's interesting to see them attempt a three-part episode, but think that they didn't need the laugh track to go with it. Like, they just assumed that since this is like a movie event, it's going to be without a laugh track. But at the same time, they didn't want to put it in theater. And at the same time, they also used the same production value with all their sets and everything. So it just essentially was a Drake and Josh episode. I don't know what they were trying to trick us with by taking out the laugh track, but it's a little spooky sometimes. It's funnier in all regards. It definitely is funnier, but it's a little spooky. So let's go over both Drake and Josh specials and see if they really did get a fair chance, and there's some pretty big differences between these. Let's start with Drake and Josh Goes Hollywood. This came out in January 6th, 2006. Kind of a crazy time to come out, honestly. And this is actually after episode 11 of season 3, Sheep Thrills. So there was like this big gap, like probably 6 months, where they didn't have anything, but they did have the Drake and Josh Goes Hollywood movie. So the episodes, I would say they were about like 30, 35 in when this movie came out. So we should already know the characters. I feel like Megan is just on the cusp of getting older, and you could tell like throughout this special. For me, you could always tell if something's like really being taken seriously as a movie if they make some drastic changes that separate it from the sitcom. And I think not having the laugh track is already kind of what Drake and Josh Goes Hollywood thrives off of, as well as the opening sequence. So the opening sequences in movies like this are really important because, you know, you don't have the theme song like usual. This isn't just another day in the lives of these characters. This is a bigger deal. And they do a good job at giving a lot of shots of San Diego where Drake and Josh live, and even show us the house in this more cinematic light. I don't know if you noticed, but in Merry Christmas Drake and Josh, they actually go even further with the cinema here. The cool thing about feature films are that there's always like one big inciting incident that makes the whole conflict in the story fall down a hill, and this is Drake and Josh getting ready to play at this huge event. Josh has just become Drake's manager through this and is trying to help represent him. They have this like really cool light machine that ends up like shooting laser beams everywhere, and it goes crazy, which is perfect for Drake and Josh hijinks. Like, it feels like a moment out of the show. I don't know what this lighting is though in Drake's room. Sure, I wanted it to be cinematic, but it looks like it's just a dark room and Drake and Josh are the only things being lit. Sorry about that. Megan announces that she's gonna go visit her friend somewhere off a plane. Josh is like, oh, congrats, go ahead, have fun. Josh calling to get a multi-million record deal is so funny because it's like, why in the world would that happen?
Backbeat Records.
Yes. I'd like to inquire about getting a multi-million-dollar record deal for my brother.
So Josh's only responsibility as his parents are going on vacation is to take care of Megan and take her to the airport, which is funny because he's getting so wrapped up in being Drake's manager that he actually messes this up. They go in a little bit too late and actually rush and get her onto the wrong plane.
Los Angeles? Mm-hmm. Not Denver?
No.
Those dumb boobs.
And this is something that happens a lot in Drake and Josh episodes where they have one goal, but then one of them makes a decision that is actually so stupid that the rest of the episode is them undoing that one goal. And that is essentially this entire movie. Seeing them at the airport, driving a car, are places we haven't really seen Drake and Josh in the series, so it's really exciting to like show us these new places that we never got to see before. It's so interesting because usually movies take you into another location. Merry Christmas and Drake and Josh didn't, but this show did, which is kind of interesting because this is less cinematic, but they're going to more cinematic places, and in Merry Christmas Drake and Josh it's more cinematic, but they're going to all the usual places, which is also an interesting thing. Drake and Josh acting goofy, like trying to jump onto the plane, reads so differently without a laugh track. For some reason it looks like we should be really concerned for the air pilots Like, I don't know why, I just, like, I see this and I'm like, maybe something's actually going to be dangerous. Next thing you know, they're gonna have to get on their own plane and get to Los Angeles, where they accidentally sent Megan. So now they're trying to track down Megan, and Megan is just, like, getting to the place and trying to make the best of her situation, because she's just frustrated that these guys even made her get on this plane. Seeing Drake and Josh on a plane is probably my favorite highlight of this special, because it's like, not only have we not seen him on the plane before, a plane is dangerous, it's like scary, and seeing these wacky guys who just tried to break onto the plane is even more concerning. Like, what?
Hand me my ointment!
Oh, kill me.
And somebody falls on Josh's lap, which does not need to happen, but it's so funny it does. They give Megan actually the best treatment, even though she was sent on the wrong plane. They send her a limo, they get her a hotel, they hook her up with all the nicest stuff, because obviously she's a little girl lost in a new city. Like, I feel like that's honestly a really fair thing to do.
Oh my God.
And things get even more intense while at the airport of LAX, Josh hears a record producer, and he's like clearly trying to get Drake a deal, so he takes the laptop and puts it under the bathroom stall for him to notice it. Isn't that wildly inappropriate?
Oh, you found my laptop.
I've never heard of something more scary than if I'm going to the bathroom and you just slip a laptop to me. I don't care if it's Frasier. I'm not gonna be watching it. So yeah, this guy gets taken back by Drake, and he's like this really legitimate producer. So Josh is like, yeah, let's do this. And they actually make a plan, since they're in LA, to go meet with this guy. It's so funny that they choose to focus on Drake's career in only the specials. Like, Really Big Shrimp, this special, like, I mean, they have the Rain episode where they're getting ready for a concert, but I feel like when we're trying to take Drake the most seriously is when we have an hour at most. So while it seems like a win that Josh booked Drake on this show, we learned that they actually made another mistake. Josh had a tech mate at the airport and accidentally switched it with a criminal's iPod. What did we call it in the 2000s? I think it was like an iPod Nano. Yeah, it's not an iPod Nano, but let's just call it an iPod Nano just to be funny, you know? So yeah, Josh switches the iPod Nanos and has this one that actually has a lot of criminal activities, leading these two gangsters to show up at Megan's new hotel to confront them. I don't know how in the world they got this information, but they finally get Drake and Josh and kidnap them. Drake and Josh avoid getting kidnapped by actually stealing a famous person's car and driving away, and it's building up the danger and the stakes rising. This next part really scared me, but definitely gave me like the high stakes of a movie. Is like, they get pulled over by these two FBI agents, quote unquote, and they are told to get out of the car. But it turns out it's not actually them, it's people working with the kidnappers, and now they're all taken. We don't really know what the kidnappers are doing quite yet, until they manage to lock Drake and Josh up in this cage. Something that I was not expecting, considering Megan was the one in all the trouble so far. But it's cool, we actually established the stakes, that it's like more than important for Drake to be at this event, and we already have something that is going to put the chances of all of this going haywire out.
That was not gentle.
So Drake and Josh are dealing with the most real situation they've ever had to deal with.
Oh, hey, fellas.
And I feel like in the 4th season, it actually gets kicked up a notch when they work with those criminals, the ones that end up robbing their house, which is kind of crazy. I wish that was the plot of this movie.
Happy anniversary.
But this is good too. So they find out that these guys are just going to be printing a bunch of money. Just in time, Megan found out too, and is actually able to get to this place, save Drake and Josh, and stop these criminals. Basically, their plan is already ruined by the time other people show up. Megan ends up taking a bunch of money and using it though, so I don't know what the legalities are with that, but all I know is that the situation gets resolved, and it's really funny the way everything kind of comes together. And I love how it's just like plot after plot, and all these like issues coming up. It's like perfect storytelling in a film format. So in the end, Drake ends up getting to the show on time with Josh. And yeah, so it's like Josh wins as his manager, Drake gets to perform, nothing really huge comes of it because we're not ready for that yet. Everything seems to resolve itself, so yay, happy ending. Drake and Josh Goes Hollywood, a very good movie special. Especially after watching this whole show in its entirety. I mean, you guys could check out, I covered every individual season of Drake and Josh in a little bit of a retrospective format. Let me know if you want me to redo any of them, because it's been getting a long time since I started those. But yeah, so Drake and Josh Goes Hollywood, really fun movie event, and definitely cool to have in the middle of the Drake and Josh production schedule, because that means we got the peak of these guys' performance. Unlike the next one, Merry Christmas, Drake and Josh. And there's a lot of really cool differences, a lot of improvements, but also a lot of steps back. It starts out pretty awesome because we have an awesome opening sequence. I don't know why, for me, the opening sequence tells me how seriously they take these movies. And we start with like a snow globe and all the characters' names coming up in a similar way they did in Drake and Josh Goes Hollywood, to just show that they're serious about this. No laugh track again, and this time it's actually shot on location, which is a lot better. Drake is driving through the car, and we actually get to see all the town, and then actually Drake and Josh's house, which is cool because we only see them in establishing shots before. This is also when iCarly started to air, so that's the only thing that's really weird about it, like seeing Jerry Trainer in this not as a main role, knowing he's the main role of iCarly.
I distinctly ordered a diet root beer, and this tastes like
I'm talking to children!
The parents go on vacation throughout this movie, and that's actually really funny, but there's not that much to talk about with it, so we're gonna kind of have to move on from that.
And that's the ocean, and that's a big rock, and this is your bungalow right here.
It starts with another wacky event with this giant float getting out of Josh's hands and flying down the neighborhood. Something really wacky, kind of like the lasers they had at the beginning of the last movie, but this one's even more intense. And this time we get to see the premiere. Seeing everything we saw before, like the mall, the premiere, is actually making the Drake and Josh world a lot wider than I thought it was. I'm so happy they came out with this movie, because at the time I was probably like on the fence about it. I thought that like the show was over, we weren't doing any more Drake and Josh, but this was a nice comeback. I feel like we just can't ignore Josh's new haircut and style. Like, he changes so much over the course of so many years. It's just distracting, but not in a bad way, in like the show ages pretty well kind of way.
Haircuts?
Yeah, haircuts. I mean, look at that hair.
Unruly, that's what it is.
We get Helen back again, and I love Helen. She is so funny, and even funnier without the laugh track.
Going to celebrate my divorce.
Whoa, wait, you just got married.
Yeah, the first 2 weeks were delightful. Week 3 was unpleasant. Week 4 was downright irritating. By week 5, I was out the door. See you. Good riddance. No more Helen for you.
Track. I don't know why I didn't see her in Drake and Josh Goes Hollywood, but we should have. I feel like more characters should have been incorporated with that. But then again, the 4th season is when they really rounded out the ensemble cast, like Eric and Craig. So it's not a surprise that we didn't really get there in that movie. But this movie takes everything to the next level, bringing back all the people after Really Big Shrimp. We even get Gavin here, and Drake is Santa Claus, which I think is kind of insane. And Josh is the bag.
Hi, Sack.
Merry Christmas.
Drake ends up doing a little Christmas show on the top of the mall, and this is when we're talking about like our Christmas plans. Like, what are we doing for Christmas? And Drake is going to Vegas, which is kind of crazy because he's a kid. They talk about this every now and then, but I didn't realize they were still like this young. And Josh is kind of upset about it because he wants to keep everybody together for the holidays. Josh actually sees people like crashing Drake's Christmas performance, and then the cops show up thinking that he is the problem, and he falls off the roof into the back trunk, which I think is an outlandish stunt that really didn't need to happen, but it's a movie, so it's obviously a lot funnier that it did. I mean, I'm glad they had this. And Josh ends up going to full-on prison because of all of this. I did not expect that to happen.
I didn't do anything.
Shut up.
But it's funny because that's something you would expect to happen in a movie. Josh befriends one of his cellmates, and they actually start getting along after being scared, and Drake ends up having to bail Josh out. They end up going to the courtroom, being represented by Helen, which I kind of think is hilarious, and Drake and Josh are both at risk for going to jail at this point, so the stakes have never been higher. Oh, they're gonna go to jail because Drake tried to bail Josh out of jail, which is insane. I've never seen an episode where Drake and Josh go to jail, and I love that. That's hilarious. But yeah, so they're in the courtroom trying to figure out what's gonna happen because of it, and then they get told by this legal guy that in order to get out of jail, they have to do community service, and that would be give this one specific family of kids without parents the best Christmas ever. And it's cool because it feels like it's not necessarily a Drake and Josh episode, but they're like the main parts of it, and I love that when they do that for movies, especially Christmas movies. So yeah, Drake and Josh meet the family, and they're all like the opposite of them. Like, one likes to jump all across the furniture, one of them doesn't speak at all except for gibberish.
We're looking for Mary Alice?
And it feels like very iCarly in this bit. Oh, and there's this sweet little girl that is like the most redeemable of them all, like trying to be the Cindy Lou Who, like the innocent one that's like, please help us have a good Christmas. And so they fail miserably multiple times to a point where they even lose their clothes at one point. By the way, they copied that from Zoe 101. It happened a couple years ago. You can't repeat all the old things. Megan becomes intertwined with the plot
Either put on some clothes or join a gym.
as she actually starts helping the boys, which is funny because she's mature enough to be Carly Shay at this point, and we're just gonna ignore it because we want to pretend like Drake and Josh still exists outside of iCarly. So yeah, after failure after failure, even Josh trying to get them a Christmas tree, things get worse and worse.
If you squint, it looks kind of nice.
And things aren't going well for Audrey and Walter either. Their entire vacation is screwed up when they're finding themselves at this like straw cabin on the ocean, and basically there's a giant storm and they're screwed this whole movie. Drake tries to connect with the rebel kid and actually give him advice, which I like. I like that it's about like insight and actually has a little bit of backbone and heart to it. Something that Drake and Josh Goes Hollywood didn't have. Like, it didn't need to introduce the characters again. It didn't need to establish all the goals before we knew what was at stake. Like, this movie does a good job of being full circle. Like, they do all the goal setting and the character arcs at the beginning and actually fully pay them off toward the end, making it more of a legitimate movie. So it's kind of cool that Nickelodeon definitely dove into this and used all the stuff they learned about making a good movie and put it into here, because they make I'd Go to Japan after this, which is the iCarly 3-part movie, and trust me, it feels like they didn't learn anything. You got so good on Drake and Josh Merry Christmas that they didn't even do it good. I don't even understand that. So Drake does this whole performance for the kids to celebrate Christmas, and it kind of gets them in high spirits, almost thinking that the plots are going to be resolved, but then the prosecutor or the guy that's keeping an eye on them ends up telling the kids exactly what they're doing, which is like, hey, like, you promised you would have these kids having a good time, and the kids realize that Drake and Josh were not there to actually befriend them, but to just not go to jail. And it's kind of heartbreaking. The rebel kid and the sweet little girl are like, no! And they feel horrible. Like, they end up not going to jail, but did they really win in the end? That's when we get to this third act, which I think Drake and Josh Goes Hollywood didn't have. They didn't really have a lot of buffering room. They just kind of went from one thing to another and didn't need to have all these plot arcs. So Drake and Josh try to be redeemable characters and actually give these kids a Christmas they never had by doing the one thing that they thought would be a really awesome thing, making snow happen. Crazy Steve has this giant wood chipper throughout this movie, and he's like bragging about it the whole time, which also feels like a Spencer thing. Like, you might as well have just made this an iCarly crossover at a certain point, because Spencer is essentially in this movie as Crazy Steve, and we can't forget that.
My head is full of pretty lumps.
I guess this is just a whole Three Stooges bits where Drake and Josh are incapable of doing anything, so every time they try, things just get worse and worse. The prosecutor guy ends up showing up at Drake and Josh's house where they started having a full Christmas. Like, the kids ended up forgiving Drake and Josh, and everybody comes together to celebrate one last time while Audrey and Walter are away.
Honey? Hey, where are you going?
Home for Christmas!
And it's sweet. Like, we have a Christmas tree. We get to see the Drake and Josh house in a way we never had before. I remember when I was this age watching this special being like, dang, they never had a Christmas episode ever. Like, you know, you didn't realize it until the series was over that Drake and Josh had never really celebrated the holidays at all. So it's cool that this movie kind of filled in more than one experience of fan service. And by the end, everybody is able to forgive them. We even get a cameo from Mindy to show that her and Josh are still together, which I find pretty sweet. And yeah, so everybody wins in the end. The kid that never talked has his first words, which is such a stereotypical, like, movie trope. And then Josh's cellmate from the beginning of the movie comes back dressed as Santa, which is hilarious.
Ho, 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 Merry Christmas, and all that stuff.
And the whole thing resolves with a nice day in the snow, and everybody gets along. The end. So, Drake and Josh Goes Hollywood versus Merry Christmas, Drake and Josh. You can definitely tell why Nickelodeon cared so much about keeping the things that worked about their feature films while not ruining it the way they eventually would ruin I Go to Japan or any of the Victorious specials. I Party with Victorious, for example. Like, they just completely ditched the production value and cinematography of it all because I guess they just didn't want to do something that expensive again. But as you can see with Merry Christmas, Drake and Josh, it's worth putting the time and effort into this. I feel like Drake and Josh Goes Hollywood was the closest thing to doing an iParty with Victorious-like special, where they had an hour and 20 minutes, but were they gonna use it? Not really. But yeah, Drake and Josh Goes Hollywood, slightly better than all the other Nickelodeon movies that came after it, but then Drake and Josh Merry Christmas ended up sealing the deal and putting the best of all worlds into this, making it to the level that Wizards of Waverly Place got, that Hannah Montana got, and better than the Sweet Life movie, because the Sweet Life movie is horrible. But yeah, Drake and Josh, definitely a great improvement over time. Thank God they had 2 or 3 really good specials to kind of define what it was like to watch Drake and Josh at that time, and they're memorable. They definitely bring in the holiday spirit, so all around a really good experience, both movies. And Nickelodeon just got better and then worse again. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching my deep dive on these Drake and Josh movie specials. I would love to know what you think, which one is the better one, which one works, and which one doesn't work. All around, like, I had a lot of fun watching this, and if you guys want to see more of my Drake and Josh content, double check my channel. I have a lot of cool stuff out there, and if you want more, just let me know. I appreciate you guys so much. So for more 2000s content, like movies, TV, music, and more, check out Johnny 2000. And until next time, everybody, have a great day.